Okay, so hi, my name is Juan Casas. I'm the founder of Empower Prosthetics. This is Austin, the administration lead. That's Jeremy, the engineering lead. And this is Robin, an advisor.
So we've come here to talk to you today about, to explain to you what we are. We're building a prosthetic arm to hopefully put on our goal is to put the arm on an adult amputee by the end of this spring semester, and to put the arm on, to be building an arm each semester for kids in need who need the prosthetics cheap. We need to have this discussion today because we are building this arm on the UF campus. We're designing on the UF campus, but we are a nonprofit. So we're kind of in this area right now where we don't really know which direction to go in and where we fit into the university. So we'd like to build a relationship with you or with someone, ideally with someone you can appoint to help us, get through the bumps and hurdles of collaborating with UF. At this point, our vision is to use plastics, 3D printers, and electronic equipment. Those are the only three inputs, and also use student time. Right now we're doing that all on the UF campus. We have about 50 people. And ultimately, we think it can provide a lot for UF, and we think it can provide a lot for people who will eventually be our customers. And Jeremy can explain exactly how we're going to do all that.
So what we at Empower Prosthetics are doing is manufacturing a 3D printed prosthetic limb that has the same degree of functionality as current prosthetics on the market, in that it functions. So it has it has motors attached to it, which allows it to be biomimetic, meaning that it could mimic the biological behavior of our normal arms. It also has EMG sensors in it, which are basically little electrical sensors that read electrical conductivity in existing muscles that are still in the amputee's stump, and they allow the amputee to basically control this functional prosthetic limb with different grip patterns, so they're able to do day-to-day tasks, and they're able to function just like anybody else can. So they also the prosthetic arm also has force sensors placed in it, so it can measure how much force it's applying on the object, so it could do precise motions like picking up an egg without breaking it. Why we started and what makes us different is that millions of people don't have access to prosthetics currently, and there's a big gap in the industry that people need prosthetics and they can't get them, and that's due to the fact that there's an economic division in that people don't have the means to get these prosthetic limbs, and they desperately need to have them to function and live a normal, happy, and fulfilling life. And so, we want to disrupt the status quo of the prosthetics industry, because currently, if you were to get a prosthetic arm that's a functional prosthetic, it would cost upwards of $100,000, whereas we at Empower Prosthetics are manufacturing it currently for less than $1,000. So the world, ultimately, we want to benefit the world from making prosthetics available to the masses, because losing an arm is currently regarded as devastating, and it's a big it renders you currently disabled for life, and it completely changes your life. But we don't want it to be such a big roadblock. We want to make it something like 100 years ago, people died from the common cold and stuff like that, and now with the advent of new technology, people the common cold is something that's inconsequential. So that's what we want to do with an amputation. We want to make it that people could get on and keep living their lives without it disrupting their lives, and we want to make it not a traumatic experience. We want to make it people able to regain ability and keep functioning in society. So the mission statement of the University of Florida is about enabling the students to lead and influence the next generation and beyond for economic, cultural, and societal benefit. And what we at EP want to do is a literal embodiment of that mission statement, and that we want to we want to be able to give people the ability to function like happily without having to have like large like without the economic background. Without being rich, they could be able to access a prosthetic limb. Also, we want to change the cultural climate in that like losing a limb is not that devastating because you could easily access the medical technology to regain your ability. And Robin's going to talk about how we're going to integrate different students working on campus together.
Yeah, so besides this great vision we have for EP to help others, we do also want to help and integrate the people here on campus. So currently we work with like a model of integration of interdisciplinary internships. So that means that we have people from like scientific fields such as engineering, chemistry, but also looking into say multimedia design, business, and potential other fields that we can work together with. Because in an organization there are several tasks that need to be done. And then students learn here in their classes to work with their scientific topics. It would be great if they can apply that already before they go into an adult life in the real world. And this organization helps them to mentor others, to seniors in the organization, to like juniors, but also to learn from how it is to apply your knowledge. And an example that I have is I'm doing research in Professor Rick Jo's lab in chemistry, and I work with several undergrad students, and one of them is, for example, a computer science major. And I'm doing research and acquire lots of data, but he has lots of knowledge about how to process data and how to develop new tools for data processing and software. So I'm going to teach and train her what the project is that I'm working on and how I collect the data and what does it mean. And she teaches me what is possible in the software acquisition. And together we bridge these gaps. And I learn every day from things that she asks me because she has very critical questions that I would not come up with. And she learns things from me as more a senior in the science compared to her. And build a connection in the science and your project. And this is what we want to apply also in EP for all different levels, thinking about bachelor up to PhDs, but also involving faculties. And that's something where you could help with getting the faculty members involved. And Austin is going to talk more about like how does EP more concretely benefit UF.
So is it? I think it's Jeremy's actually going.
Jeremy?
Are you going or I'm going right?
You're
now?
gonna do the A point, and then I'm gonna do the B point.
Okay. So, yeah, we want to create that first stepping stone between a UF student leaving the classroom and going into the real world. We do operate here on the UF campus, so it creates a much smaller step as opposed to going off campus into a big company. If you don't know what you want to do, we have a lot of flexibility because we have students working with students on real world problems. We're not forcing someone to make a huge jump and to maybe take a career direction they don't necessarily want to take. We're going all sorts of different directions. We have chemical engineering students, we have electrical engineering students, we have computer science people, we have marketing. So even if we don't need necessarily a specific task done and it wouldn't be cost effective to pay someone to do it, someone can just do it because we can take it, we can use it, and we can integrate it into our process. So yeah, we're gonna give students that opportunity, and ultimately, with that extra work, we give back to the community by eventually building these arms.
9 minutes and 30 seconds.
And then Jeremy's going to tell you exactly about what we need.
So why we're here is most importantly to build a partnership between Empowered Prosthetics and the University of Florida. And what that would look like in the now is basically just like establishing connections with people that could lead us in the right direction of getting our idea and our product to the masses. And those right people would be grant experts, for example, to help us secure funding.
10 minutes.
Uh,
We ran over it.
Just keep going.
Yeah, I like stumbling 18 times. Like grant experts to help us secure funding, or just connecting us with faculty that would allow us to integrate our ideas with like professors at the university. Also, we could use help with a concrete meeting space or workspace to manufacture our product, and also recognition to make connections with faculty and students possible.
We would like to hear your thoughts about this.
Yeah. And we would like to hear your thoughts about this.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was not 10 minutes, about 11?
11.
I need to like cut
Okay,
down.
we're
There's
gonna
like
ask you
way
some
too many
questions
points.
for 4 minutes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, dude.
I mean, maybe it is 12 minutes, maybe it is 9 minutes because everybody's really nervous. It's good.
How would you guys be able to cut the cost down from $100,000 to 1,000?
I'm answering all the questions. Okay, so since we're using 3D printers, we don't have to. Since we're not paying anybody, that reduces the cost humongously. We use a 3D scanner to. No, actually, never mind.
Well, I think Jeremy was.
We work with volunteers and the products cost, of course.
So how we're going to be cutting the costs down is going to be through the method of design that we're approaching the prosthetic with. Currently, prosthetic that like costs $100,000 because you have to machine parts and you have this giant corporate structure that controls everything. Whereas we are 3D modeling everything, so it can be manufactured in like less than a week, which is much faster. And it's also all we're using is plastic and a few like metal parts that like such as like springs and actuators, which are cheap and we're easily able to integrate them into this prosthetic arm. So the manufacturing's cut down tremendously, and also the design process is done through computer-aided modeling, so it's much cheaper.
And we'll be able to have, I mean, obviously the labor's free, so we'll be able to have great service eventually, hopefully, because we'll, have students and we can have them devote however much time we need to each specific customer.
Any questions? We have 2 minutes. So I don't know what grade you all are in, but when you guys have graduated out of UF, are you still going to be able to work and produce these things for free?
So my idea is that this project stays at the University of Florida and is always run by students. That way we can keep the cost low and we can help more people.
So I graduate after this spring, and I'll be grooming someone to replace me to lead administration, hopefully.
So if you want to keep it at the University of Florida to keep costs low, why are you doing a nonprofit rather than a student organization?
Because if we have a nonprofit, it's easier to raise money. It's a bigger incentive than if it's just a club.
And as a nonprofit, if it does take another direction and we are producing things on a large scale and we really find out that a different strategy emerges, where there really is a need for a lot of these low-cost arms, we will be able to take another direction. Whereas if we were just a design team, we would be limited to the structure that we have now. And that's another reason why we're here, because this person that we cooperate with might need to be able to tell us at what point do we continue to use UF facilities in the way that we do, and at what point do we move on and take a different direction with us.
So you need kind of like a mentor person, or what?
Yes. Yeah, a mentor would be a great word, liaison. Basically anyone who has the authority to guide this process.
And also lots of things that for us it's not determined 100%. If you have another idea, put in, we are open for any suggestions.
I would mention that too.
Like if he says like, oh, if you go with this direction you can build this up, or if you do this, then of course we want to hear how it was. Yeah.
15 right there.
Yep.
I think this is good. Probably he will come up with things and maybe he is also like an extrovert, so he might jump in the meantime already a few times and says like, guys, can I ask already something?
Yeah.
In case that does happen, in case he does jump in and then the next person who's talking realizes that they don't have nearly enough time, I would just have in your heads like the most important things out of everything you're going to say so that you are able to go with the ebbs and flows of the conversation.
Yeah,
Okay.
you could cut out some things. I kept saying the same thing. I feel like.
Yeah, there was some.
And
that
I-
is one thing, but I think the more that you practice, the more you'll be able to take out a lot of those filler words and stuff like that.
And those
Also, what I was
ideas
reading
that
off of,
keep
like, it
repeating.
just kind of repeated itself. So I'm like, yeah,
So,
stuff
like, the
out
more,
there.
that's something that just goes weird.
And we have all the agenda, with us, and he has too. So I think he's also trained to keep on agendas. He has for
Yeah,
all
but I mean-
a tight schedule.
Okay.
Like you said.
So,
And I actually-
I do have one question.
Okay.
You say you need like guidance with grants and funding and stuff like that. How much money are you guys projecting that you'll need?
That's a good one.
And what size of grants should they be
So
looking at?
so we so far spent $800, and I think that if I had to guess, we're probably not going to more than triple that next semester.
Just say a few thousand.
Yeah, we're not going to go. We'll be under 5-10,000. And in this context, I would say we're having a meeting on Friday where we're going to discuss developing a schedule of values. We just partnered with Enactus, and we intend to use, and this we'll talk about on Friday. We intend to actually get a timeline of when we need money and how much money we need. But like I said, at this point, we just have motors, plastic, and the 3D printer, and we've been using 3D printers in Dr. Ars's lab. And obviously that's why we're here.
okay. So you're just going to go through, like, in order of people that are talking?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I guess for you, for when you're starting, just a little bit more excitement, like projection, because you project really well. That when you speak, and so like just that makes like a very serious difference, and that's extremely important because you're the first person talking.
Yeah. So speak up. Smile, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then when you're done with your part, make sure that you transition into the rest of the presentation.
Oh, that's one
Because
thing.
otherwise
Yeah.
it seems very that's a note with all of you, but it's very important at the beginning, is to make sure that you say and now these guys are going to talk about this, or and now Robin's
Yeah.
going to talk about this and stuff like that.
So
So
I felt like you kind of jumped into it.
yeah, otherwise it seems like the ideas aren't connected.
And then so once you guys practice more, if you just figure out the last line that you're going to say to transition so that it's a little bit smoother, so it doesn't seem unorganized a little bit, just one sentence can make a difference.
Right.
Yeah.
And we'll see as we smooth it out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so just talking about the first part.
Yeah, I was literally just
Oh, yeah, I didn't have anything to do with the part more than what you said.
Oh, okay. Okay, so
then
then
Austin.
Oh yeah, so I just didn't really feel for the beginning part. What's the goal of what you're trying to say? Because I didn't feel like there was
Okay.
a lot of structure. How can
Yeah,
you
I actually agree with that. I ultimately want to start and give a very. So I'm not sure if I'm going to start by explaining exactly what we're going to do, or if I'm going to start by saying why we're here to discuss. Because I want to start by saying we're here to develop a cooperative relationship between UF and Empowered Prosthetics. And then I also want to give him a short little snippet of what we do, so that he has an image in his mind. I don't know if I could just let that happen when Jeremy goes.
So because that's my only thing is I feel like you cover that
Okay.
with. So your goal of what you're saying is you're laying out the agenda basically. You're
Yeah, I'm saying what we're
gonna
gonna say.
We're here. This is what we need,
Yeah.
basically.
And then ultimately and then also I want to say I think I want to say that at the beginning is the inputs and outputs. We need plastic, we need to use 3D printers, and we need, which might come later, but another thing I need to explain is we need plastic, we need 3D printers, and we need electronics, and we need students.
Okay,
No,
so
that's going
I-
to come at the end, though, right? That need part.
It comes back.
we don't.
when
We
talk
already
about
have
how
those
we
things
use
though.
it.
Yeah, do not say.
Like, we already have 3D printers.
So are you talking about like where you are currently? So this is what you have right now?
That's what we have.
Yeah, I feel like you should
Okay,
like
so
be
maybe
describing
you
the
should
current
make it
state of
clear that
affairs.
this
So
is, like,
I'm
the
saying-
current state of where you guys
So
are.
that's I should say that this is what we're using, and
Right,
we're
yeah.
using the UF campus.
Yeah, because you need to emphasize that UF has already done a great job.
Right.
Right,
Yeah.
okay.
This is what UF has been doing already. This is what we need in order to be sustainable in the future. And like,
Mhm.
okay, so I understand that. So I think that just needs to be a little bit.
That we are also appreciative to UF what
Yeah.
they, like made us start up already.
Okay, so then
So I'm
You're
not going to
talking
explain
about-
what I'm not going to explain what we are. So I'm going to take that out.
wait. So you're talking about why we're here and what you're using already, seriously, basically. From
Yeah,
your-
I think
Yeah, you can use maybe the one idea.
so.
Increase vision and mission statement, yeah.
I'm actually going to say
You should talk about like
why we're at this meeting.
and like the reason that we're able to like do what we're doing is because of the climate that UF has fostered for us.
So the only thing about that is that before you've talked about the climate, no one has mentioned what you're doing. So that's why I'm trying to decide, figure out the order, the best way that would be. Do you know what
And
I
that's
mean?
why I'm kind of thinking I could maybe bring in figure out the shortest and simplest way to say we're building an arm, we're 3D printing a prosthetic arm.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Should I just go first?
Wait a second. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking instead. Okay, because your two things, you talk about like how you do it, what you're doing, and then how you're giving back to the community, right?
Mhm.
That's kind of what I got from it. So
So it's like a
and then-
background. on
But
the
although
project.
it is important for them to say why you're doing
Yeah, but okay.
I think
You know
the
what I mean?
explanation might be appropriate because I think it is good practice to say like what you're going to say first, but at the same time he has no idea what we are. So I think it might be acceptable in this
You can
situation
also
too.
kind of like break it up a little bit because you like get into a little bit more about the specifics of how the arm works,
Mhm.
right? You can give a broad overview like we're
Yeah.
manufacturing prosthetic arms using these materials, and this is how we've been doing it so far.
Oh yeah, and then this is what we need to move forward, and we'll
And
let
then
him talk about blah blah blah.
The
blah.
specifics of it.
Yeah.
The specifics,
The
yeah.
specifics.
Do you see what I mean?
Wait,
so you
so-
kind of paint in broad strokes and say
And then
why you're
he's
there and
in
what you
the
need moving
specifics.
forward.
Right.
And then he comes in and talks a little bit more about the specifics of how you make the arm and then your community
Mhm.
service part.
Yeah.
So like basic who we are, what we already have given from the UF in order to do this, why we're here in front of you, and then let him talk about more specifics of the project. And you could use that as a transition also.
And it's
So-
also good to let him know, like maybe like in the beginning and at the end, like why we need him. So it's okay
Yeah.
if you already mentioned it briefly and we come back on it.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
But that is.
but to give like an intro is great.
Awesome.
Because we're trying to figure out.
So what we are doing, yeah, and
Just
then
make
Why we're
the
meeting with
structure
you.
more clear so that it follows, so you can follow it.
yeah.
Okay, so then your thing. Oh yeah, we're moving on. We're saying. Do you have anything else?
So let's clarify. I'm gonna come in. I'm gonna say, "Hi, we're Empowered Prosthetics. We're building we're preparing to 3D print a prosthetic arm for an adult amputee by the end of the spring semester. Eventually, we're gonna be 3D printing arms for kids. We're a nonprofit operating here on the UF campus, run all by UF students. We have just been using. We've been using 3D printers, plastics, and electronics, and student effort. So we're here to discuss a potential relationship, or to discuss the relationship between the University of Florida and our nonprofit. Even though we operate much like a design team, we've chosen to become a nonprofit because we might someday expand beyond the University of Florida. We'd like to explain exactly what we're doing and what direction you think we might take, and potentially talk about getting a liaison to guide us through this.
That was a
That
lot
was a lot better.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah,
that was
that
so
was
much
way
easier to
easier to
follow.
follow,
A lot more structured, a lot more focused. That was
Also,
great.
your tone was
And then-
better. You,
Yes.
Yeah, that was a lot better. So
Okay.
obviously.
I hope I remember everything I said.
Oh,
Just
sweet.
like-
Write it down.
Yeah.
You know, and if you need to have this in the meeting with you, like
I'm gonna use it.
Yeah.
So what did I just say?
So
I said.
basic
I
overview.
recorded everything.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Oh, there you
let's
go.
just pop it.
Basic overview, what you have already, and then why you're here.
Yeah.
What we're doing. Okay.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
I think like really big reason why that was so much better was because you didn't get into any of like the pros and cons or like the specifics of like how it helps students or anything. It was
Yeah,
very
you're keeping
like
it very
broad overview. This is what we're about to talk about. Here's what you need to know.
Okay.
yeah,
And that was
that's
really
it.
good.
That's excellent. And then just remember again, transition into Jeremy.
Okay, yeah.
Um,
so figure out transitions. Right, you want to move on to Jeremy?
Well, I also just wanted to make something that I had written down here. When you're presenting, do your best to like keep eye contact.
That's what
stare at him like the whole time. But,
Yeah.
But just try to see that because you have a tendency like
Amar said that.
up there.
Amar said that the other day too.
Okay.
and
Yeah, sounds like my
I
last
think that's also just
presentation
like
now.
when one person's presenting, everyone else needs to like look like they're super into what's going on.
Yeah, that's what I think
Like,
that you're.
oh yeah, like nodding along, like yeah, he's so smart.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, 'cause
you know,
your body
giving
language
other
matters.
people credibility. Yeah, when they're speaking.
Yeah. And look interested and engaged, like. And I know that's weird because
well,
you're
like,
not the.
obviously that's not gonna
Yeah. But just like think about that because I know that when someone else is talking, it's like you're just like thinking about like what you've got to do next, and like I totally get it. But just it'll make a better impression if you all look like you're on the same page and like listening to what
Like,
they're
I-
saying,
Exactly,
even if
yeah.
you're thinking
During
about something.
presentations, sometimes when other people would speak, I just like go over what I'm going to say in my head, and then every once in a while, I would look at them while they're talking. Just like, I'm serious, but like I've gotten comments on that before, like that it seems like your team is very engaged and like your
No,
team-
exactly. That's like
you know,
I like
Shaking your
like
head.
debating like.
like you could literally just be thinking about food,
Yeah.
whatever you want.
Damn.
It's like group thing.
Smile at it, like,
Yeah.
Like if you're like, oh yes, like if,
Yeah.
if like like everybody is agreeing with what they're saying, then it's like more likely that the rest of the
Yeah.
room is gonna follow suit.
Oh, I just learned something about that today. They did like a hotel study that when they do like say, oh, reuse your towels because it's good for the environment, like 33% more people use their towels. But if you say 75% of people in this room reuse their towels because it's better for the environment, that increases it by like 56%.
That's something new every day.
Yeah.
Wow.
Groundbreaking.
Okay, Jeremy.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think you started. It kind of felt like you started off with a lot of filler, and then the thing that hit home was the whole 100,000 versus how much is it?
Say
1,000?
500,
1,000.
less than 500.
Less
Oh.
than 500.
We're even less than that because we reduced it to one motor, so we're like
It's pretty cheap.
300.
So like I think
Just under
okay,
1,000
who's
because
talking
the
about the
product is
whole
when
like
it's finalized.
climate of it, like how much it is
Then
up to, right?
Yeah.
you need better.
So I think you should just jump right into that and then say, well, this is how we're like create some sort of like 2 sentences or whatever that's very concise mission statement, like, and we're making it from 100,000 up to $1,000, kind of like to get us excited about it.
And
Make it-
kind of like with that, when you're talking about like people of different backgrounds being able to afford it, I would use the word socioeconomic status.
Ooh,
That's
a
like a
good word.
big like.
yeah.
Everyone's like, ooh, they know what they're talking about. Like, but really, you're just like, you don't have to be rich.
Meeting.
Yeah. Oh, I really liked when you. Sorry.
No,
I really like the like disrupting the status quo of the prosthetics industry. That's a really good line to keep for sure.
yeah, and I think that should be said like in the very
Mhm.
beginning of what I'm saying.
Yeah, and then as far as like the funny noises and stuff, that'll just obviously.
Yeah, no, not gonna
yeah.
do
Wait, what funny noises?
The, you want to do a little bit?
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but those are fine.
Okay.
Good thing you said that, because
No, I'm not
You
gonna
probably
do
would've kept
dropped
Shit, really?
Okay, so
That was my biggest point.
like trying to
He likes personality.
There you go.
But yeah, you have like really good
So, like,
projection and
don't-
everything, which makes you sound like you know what you're talking
Yeah,
about.
even
Like,
if I'm not,
obvious- yeah.
even if I don't, I just
But I mean, it sounds like it. So.
Yeah. I do.
And I wouldn't know, and Fox wouldn't know, probably. It's like,
People pick out things, you know, here's this,
yeah.
All right. Did anyone have anything else for that section?
No.
Okay.
Okay, Robin. That was a really good example that you used between you and the computer science person. If you, I don't know how to make it a little bit more concise, but definitely keep it.
I would. Yeah. The only thing I had for you was that was a good example, especially when you say bridging the gaps. That was really good. The only thing I would change about that example is like keeping the part, like bring up the example and explain like the interaction and like the exchange of knowledge, but then directly tie that into how EP is utilizing like that exchange of the same knowledge the same way.
Yeah, I can do that.
but everything else, I just had that was good.
Yeah, that was good. And then, just transitions. So that's probably better.
And then
Yeah, the transition has to be clear that
Okay,
Austin's
so
gonna be
the
go
flow
over
that
you.
you guys have right now is you're introducing everybody. You're talking about basic overview, what you have, why you're here. You're talking about what you guys are giving back to the community. You're talking about giving back to UF.
Yeah, that's a big
So
point.
then we come back to this. Are you also talking about what you give back to UF? I was a little
So
confused.
I was confused too because I thought I was doing the B, the very last part where we ask for the liaison.
Yeah, I feel like you should do that.
I mean, you can do it instead. Yeah, if you
Yeah.
feel more comfortable.
Because it felt like you talked about giving back to students, and then you also did, and I was a little bit confused.
It's just more like the summarizing that started at the same item that I left. So we can
Oh,
put
like
it.
you're summarizing the entire
Yeah,
thing.
so yeah, so like it's number 5 closing, but we can make like number 5AI, like number 5A4, you know, like just switching it up.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense? It was like summarizing the story, but the summary started at the last point.
Oh, okay.
That was why it looked like in one flow.
Oh, okay.
But if we make like creating opportunities for students to learn anything, make it the last one of the summary,
Mm-hmm.
that probably makes it more understandable.
Yeah.
Um,
Because it felt, less like a summary and more like you're kind of piggybacking off of him. But that makes sense. Why you're making it that way.
So you would like to do the what can UF do for AP, the 5B part instead, or
creating opportunities for students. So I think kind of in my so how EP can benefit UF. I might want to talk about like towards the end I might want to talk about like how we could be that stepping stone from first to second or from like school to the real world. Creating opportunities, that's what that would be. Integrating faculty and students, we might be able to take that out
I
because
tried
that'll.
that already.
But yeah, so
I can take it out.
that'll be part of what you're saying, because
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we don't
and
have to
then-
repeat that,
Yeah,
we
because
did.
you already said it.
and then I think the mission statement aligning with UF will be Jeremy. Like how.
Oh, about that. I don't think you should state the mission statement word for word. You should
It
summarize
sounds
it.
kind of cliche. I don't know.
And maybe you could, like, if you want, have his mission statement, like, because, wait, are you guys going to do just the logo up?
Yeah, there's a logo on the bottom.
So
on the
then
top,
when
sorry.
you bring up the mission statement, maybe you could just have that there so you can pick out pieces of it instead of stating it verbatim, because I kind of lost you when you were saying it.
And I think what else might be cool is when we print out that STL file, if we put the mission statement right above that arm. So he
UF's
sees
mission statement,
Yeah,
or-
UF's mission statement, where it's like providing social change or whatever, and put it like right above this arm. So he sees the mission statement and he sees what we're gonna make and how.
That's good.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Alright. But the agenda looks good for now. The items,
so I was gonna
people
say-
feel comfortable and it makes sense.
So 5A3 should be under will be something that Jeremy's talking about.
Yes.
And then giving back to the community, I also think that will be in a different part of the. We could also take that out,
Yeah.
and then. So instead of having A and B, maybe let's do, just take out B and then replace A with our relationship. I'll do it.
Oh, yeah.
So now you're gonna do B as well.
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, we can make also the closing a bit more concise and just flowing through.
Yeah, no, it's just practice.
And then I can just say, okay, now Austin's gonna give you like a rundown of the overview of what we are planning to do and where we would like to get your opinion about and possibility of like help and assistance. And then you can run down, from overview to needs.
So Austin, you're gonna be the one who's saying exactly what you need in the end.
I think that, yeah.
Okay, so wait, what were you saying at the very end last time?
I was talking about why we're here, and it's still the relationship with University of Florida.
At the very end?
Yeah.
Oh,
Wait, so are you gonna say what you need and then you're gonna say that?
No, I think you should just